Hello everyone, I've been sharpening for over 10 years now, and I would like to tell you about a very interesting question that was relevant to me when I first started this tool sharpening business, and it is still relevant and interesting to me now, after all this time. This is a question about machines and methods of knife sharpening. No matter what types of tool sharpening you do, there will always be clients. For example, workshop tools, hair clippers. You will always have clients who bring you knives. Kitchen hunting, folding ceramic, Japanese expensive knives, collectible knives. I even had deputies who brought 19th century knives and asked me to sharpen them. We sharpened them very satisfactorily. Several deputies came, and they recommended each other from the State Duma. In general, the question is related to knife sharpening machines. I have compiled a very interesting list. These are electric and non-electric machines. For sharpening knives specifically for business, I will be focusing on the topic of sharpening machines for business. Why? Because that's a separate topic. Now, let me tell you the 10th point, and you'll understand. This is specifically about sharpening knives for money. Let's put it this way. It's not for business, but sharpening knives for money, so people would pay for it. Smoothly transitioning to the 10th point, the lowest point in the ranking. The 10th point is sharpening knives by hand on stones. Why is it specifically the 10th point? I ranked it as the worst method of knife sharpening, not because the knives will cut poorly, but because this method of sharpening is very time-consuming. Anyone who has ever sharpened knives by hand on stones will understand me, especially if you are sharpening not expensive knives kusumi, which themselves cost 15,000. With one-sided sharpening, they will cut with any sharpening. I would like to digress a little from the topic here. Please don't be swayed by Japanese bloggers who show sharpening on stones, soaking the stones, displaying expensive knives, how to sharpen them on these stones, and how they slice tomatoes so perfectly. I would call such videos fake because these knives are expensive. With any stone, with any sharpening, they will cut excellently because they themselves cost 15,000. And if a client brings you, say, their hunting knife, and you have a stone or a composite knife, and you try to manually sharpen that knife on this stone, it will take you, well, let's say without changing the angle of the cutting edge, it will take you, well, 4 hours at best. But usually more. It generally takes several days. People are not ready to pay for your work if you tell them the price is 5,000 rubles. No one will order such sharpening from you. We even had an example where a client brought a blank, just a piece of metal, roughly speaking, and asked to sharpen it to a cutting edge. We quoted him a price of 1,200, 1,500. He refused 1,200. He also refused, saying, "No, that's too expensive." That is, people are not willing to pay you money 99% won't pay. Sharpening on stones, as a business, don't even consider it. Basically, if you have, roughly speaking, free time and money to buy these stones, maybe around 1,800 a set of stones, please go ahead and buy them. Sharpening this knife for a very long week just for fun to get it to a fine edge is possible, but it takes a very long time. Alright, I've spent too much time on this point. The 9th point is electric sharpeners from the internet. I bought such a sharpener myself, but I didn't make a video about it because it seems the sharpening quality is very poor. Why did I include this sharpener in the rating if it's so bad? Because people who are looking for something have opened a workshop and are looking for some machine to sharpen inexpensively. Well, they might be swayed by the price and just lose their money, waste time and nerves. That's the 9th point. The 8th point. These are 3-stone sharpeners from Yandex Market. You can call them that. They can be sold on AliExpress and other stores. This sharpener, you could say, is not bad, but it's for home use. At home, to be honest, this is the kind of sharpener people use. 7th point. Manual sharpeners from IKEA. I rank them a bit higher than those from Yandex Market because they are slightly better in quality. Well, the difference is quite small, so it doesn't really matter. And here is another option exclusively for home use. It will be unsuitable for business. That is, the client seeing such quality sharpening will not pay you, and moreover, you will not sharpen for them a second time. First, you can sharpen it yourself by buying such a sharpener. Second, if you see how you sharpen it, he will just take the knife from you. Third, a burr remains on the knife. A burr is bad. Such a knife will definitely cut poorly. This is point 7. Moving on to point 8. A bit better. The option is Chief Choice Sharpeners. They have a wide range of sharpeners. They are all electric. Sometimes even chefs use them. What's the downside? The downside is the price. I think the price here absolutely does not match the quality of these sharpeners. The burr is not removed there, meaning a microscopic burr remains, which worsens the knife's cutting quality. Well, nevertheless, I included these sharpeners in the ranking because they are quite popular. The 5th option is a little better than the 6th option. These are water-cooled machines from Jet, or similar machines. Specifically, when it comes to the Jet brand, every craftsman and workshop I know who use these machines had them break down. I don't know a single person who hasn't had this machine break down. Some fix it, others just throw it away. I think this is an option. Well, I wouldn't recommend it because they kind of break down, and basically not many people use them for the same reason, because, again, it's about price quality. Additionally, their consumables are very expensive. I will explain this using the next 2 machines in my ranking as examples. In 4th place, a slightly better option, is the Tormig T8 machine. The Tormig T8 machine has a wheel that is cooled in water. The word cooled is not the right term to use here. It's more likely that the metal shavings settle in the water along with the abrasive material that wears off the stone, because there's nothing to heat up there. The machine, if I'm not mistaken, has a speed of 90 revolutions per minute, but it goes through water, this stone. One of the advantages is that its wheel is sharpened to 25 mm. Another advantage, I would say, is that it has a good leather polishing wheel. However, the disadvantages, in my opinion, completely outweigh these advantages. The leather polishing wheel wears out. In a week at most, you'll have to buy a new one. A new one costs 2,500. These are old prices, which I think are more expensive. It barely sharpens a few knives. Absolutely useless thing. We don't recommend it to anyone. We polish knives on Sharp KM15 standard machines using a polishing disc or on polishing discs on Knife Expert machines. The second drawback we encounter with them is precisely its 25 cm stone wheel. Such a wheel costs around 20,000 rubles now, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, maybe 15, maybe a bit more expensive. These stones don't come in different types, slightly coarser, slightly finer, but the price is just astronomical. Overall, it's kind of okay, but all these consumables, they're not for business. Again, I always rely on the experience of the workshop, which has been around for more than 10 years. And I want to say that when you run out of such a disc, it really sucks to buy a new one. That's 20,000 rubles. Do you understand how many sharpenings you need to do just to break even? Not to mention you have to pay for rent, salaries, electricity, and a bunch of other expenses. Just for advertising alone, it's 20,000 rubles. But this, oh my, these prices are out of this world, guys. If you have the money, buy this machine for yourself. I can't, please, sharpen in the garage if you don't mind throwing away that kind of money. In 3rd place is the Tormig T4 machine. It has a grinding wheel diameter of 20 centimeters, and I ranked it higher than the Tormig T8. Why? Because it is cheaper. Such a machine will at least pay for itself eventually, maybe in a few months. And the downside of this machine, again, is the same as with the Tormig T8. The polishing wheel is absolutely useless. You need to use a different polishing method, which will be completely unprofitable, and the wheel wears down over time quite quickly. You have to buy a new one. A new wheel for the T4 costs between 12,000 and 15,000. These are the prices, so think for yourself whether it's worth it or not. In our workshop, to be honest, we used Tormig machines until we got 2 other machines in the workshop. Moving on to the 2nd place. This is the Knife Expert machine. Knife Expert has a diamond wheel. It does not wear down during sharpening. It will not get smaller over time. The advantage of this disc is sufficient. Well, probably. To be honest, we have never changed the discs. We've been using the Knife Expert for 2.5 years now, and we've probably been using the Knife Expert Pro, the bigger machine, for about 6 months. There is no need to change the discs. They have, if I'm not mistaken, a 5mm layer. I think the F-Expert has a thinner layer, maybe 2mm, but the F-Expert has a 5mm diamond layer. You could say that this will last for the entire life of the machine. We had to change the disc, and the second advantage is that it has a polishing wheel. The polishing wheel lasts a long time, and it is not that expensive on its own. I think the polishing wheel costs 1,200 rubles. for either machine. So in second place I will put the Knife Expert machine, and in first place I will put the Knife Expert Pro machine. The Knife Expert Pro has a sharpening disc with a diameter of 20 centimeters and also a polishing wheel. The Knife Expert Pro has a more powerful motor. What does this give? It means that you can sharpen, roughly speaking, if you take, for example, a chisel or a planer. Try to sharpen it and press it hard against the Knife Expert machine. The regular Knife Expert machine might reduce its speed. Roughly speaking, you will stop the disc and stop the motor by pressing the tool. The Knife Expert Pro, however, will not stop because it has a powerful engine. This is the difference from engines. So, if you are also sharpening threads with your acquired tools, these jointer knives, planer blades, or chisels, then I would recommend the Knife Expert Pro. Plus, the sharpening disc has a diameter of 20 centimeters. It won't decrease, it will always be 20 centimeters. And this radius creates a fairly straight cutting edge. The radius of the rounding of the cutting edge will be larger. We are at the moment sharpening all the knives in the workshop using the Knife Expert Pro. There is one very interesting point, which is very important for knife sharpening professionals. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, we had a customer who brought us a knife blank. Roughly speaking, I think it was from a circular saw blade. He just cut out a rectangle and brought it to us to sharpen. At that time, we didn't have the Knife Expert Pro machine, so we were sharpening it on the Tormek machine. It took us 40 minutes just to start setting the cutting edge. Just to start, we hadn't even set it on one side yet. We realized it would take us about 4 hours to complete. And then they quoted the customer the price, $1,500. He refused, saying, well, okay, $1,200. He refused again outright, saying it was too expensive. That's an interesting example, and there are quite a few customers with blanks who bring them in for sharpening. And sharpening such blanks on the Tormek is not profitable. People will refuse because it takes a long time. After all, it's a low-speed stone, and we are ready to spend our 4 hours based on your efforts to earn $300 or 400 rubles, however much we are willing to pay. But personally, we are not ready because we have expenses. The rent alone is almost 100,000. With the Knife Expert Pro, you can sharpen such a blank in 5 minutes. And I think this is probably the main advantage of this machine. Stepan brought a knife blade that needed to have the cutting edge set. This is done very quickly.
Something like this. If it's for Tuesday, when exactly it works out, can you manage it, or will people get such an oval? Will it be a pit, or should we look for something like this? I'll go answer if it's even, or a slope.
Rating. I would like to note that you still need to get used to any machine, no matter which one you choose. Any machine requires you to get the hang of it, but you can learn to sharpen on any machine. Thank you for your attention. Like, subscribe to my channel. See you next time.